they wanted to do. Out of this conflict, which was an horrific event for everyday people and families, they created a lot of debt, and they sent in the carpetbaggers as debt collectors to seize the assets of the people of these states, like lumber mills, rail yards, community banks, family farms, and stuff like that, as war reparations. And it worked so well in the South, they did the same thing in the North. This bloody mercenary war was engineered between northern British banking concerns and southern municipal concerns to create debt for the actual states and consolidate the power for the state of states. Then the same MO was used in other world wars and conflicts today.
After the Civil War, there was so much confusion. Northerners in the South wanted to go home, Southerners in the North wanted to go home, families were scattered, there was no good communication, they were riding around on horses delivering letters, there was no internet or phones. The people did not realize that a corporation was created that had the same name as the actual government, and that this is where the corporate takeover of our government took place. I'm sure that anyone who did know and would have protested was quickly silenced. We now know some of them escaped west. The people did not assemble to oversee what was happening. Because of the confusion, they all thought things were being set up as usual. Over the years, the idea of people assembling to oversee the federal government's subcontractors was forgotten. The actual government was asleep, taking a very long break. And the subcontractors, the employees, took over as planned. And we have had some kind of war ever since. We even have had war on drugs, war on poverty, war on the common cold, whatever they can think of.
The Federal Reserve is a for-profit corporation. Some of you own your own business, so let me point out how this business works. The cost to print a Federal Reserve note is about 4 cents. Now, it doesn't matter if you're printing $1 bills, $20 bills, or $100 bills. It still costs about 4 cents. For example, if you're printing a $100 bill and it costs 4 cents to print it, you, the Federal Reserve, have made $99.96 in value. That's a great return. But the real value at one time was backed up by gold and silver. Today, it's nothing more than an IOU. The Federal Reserve has been operating without oversight, and they print and you get to pay for the debt. The Federal Reserve right now is operated as a UN corporation, which you've learned is part of the municipal government. And the IRS is run by the Federal Reserve, so it's operated by the Pope. Also, the Federal Reserve is a corporation, and they could have named it anything, but because they used the word federal, that was to trick everyone into believing that it was part of their own government. More that word deception.
They created the debt. Where is the credit? This is an accrued accounting system, so the revenue is recorded on both sides of the transaction. By definition, they are equal to each other, so the U.S. debt always equals the national credit. Do you know how much the U.S. debt is now? Well, we looked it up, and it's $29 trillion. So, how much is the national credit? $29 trillion. We are always hearing about the U.S. debt, but have any of you ever heard about the national credit? Why? Bad bookkeeping, embezzlement. The federal government, the employees, use the money for what they want, and this credit is held in trust for our benefit. Anyone getting benefits from it? No. In 1998, Anna sent her research team out there to find the national credit. It took until 2011 for them to locate it. The DoD has it on their books, the Municipal Department of Defense, Anna and her teams do not give up. This is Joe from Joe's Hamburger Shop. I picked Joe because Anna's article number 2337 is about Joe. Think about Joe as being you in your business or your occupation, whatever it is that you do. You go into his hamburger shop and buy a hamburger. What have you done? You gave him some money. You gave him $5 for the hamburger. But what did you actually give him? You gave him a Federal Reserve note which has no value. It is an IOU. He put out his product and his labor and paid his employees. He put out everything, and all he got was an IOU for that. This is how the U.S. debt is created. All these IOUs are being kept track of. You paid $5 for a hamburger. Over a week, $10,000 of product was sold. Joe put out the product and labor and collected $10,000 of IOUs. Over a year, say he had a good year and collected $520,000 of IOUs. So what is happening? The prepaid credit is accruing. The credit keeps going up equal to the debt. He already put out the product and labor, the credit, and collected IOUs, the debt. This goes on for 10 years. The debt goes up, collecting the IOUs. And the credit goes up at the same rate. He is putting out the product and labor. And Joe has parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. This has been going on for 6 generations. They put out their products, their labor, their resources, their ideas, their patents, and all they got were IOUs. They even paid all the taxes they were never supposed to have. With all his family, the debt collected has gone up. And the credit has gone up in equal value. So what should have happened? Do you know? Well, over the years, Joe, the living man, got many bills for Joe, the person. Every one of us gets bills for the corporate version of our name. Say that over the years, Joe, the living man, got $1 million worth of bills for the all capital letters Joe, the person. Joe was supposed to be able to access the credit that he and his family already prepaid over the years. The $1 million credit is used, which lowers the U.S. debt by the same amount. This is how we lower the U.S. debt, by accessing the national credit. Joe says, "What happened?" Anna said, "What happened? Anyone using this credit to lower the debt? So why not?" They say there are no Americans. The national credit is for living people. They stole your identity and registered you as a U.S. citizen, a person. Think about it. The U.S. debt is owed by U.S. citizens, which are corporations that they claim you to be, to Americans who are the living people. You are considered a U.S. citizen, presumed dead, lost at sea. In order for them to pay you back the credit that is already accrued, you literally have to come back from the dead or return from across the sea. They say there are no Americans left. We say Americans are definitely here. We are here in every state of the Union. This is our American State National Credential Card. Anna's nationality is a Hawaiian because she was born on Hawaii. Her lawful name is upper and lowercase letters. Her home state and county are where she lives now. This was issued by the Hawaii Assembly, and her right thumbprint is her seal. This is the back of the card. You can see it is issued by the United States of America. Here is a QR code. When you scan this, it will show all the records you have on the land recording system for public notice. Americans are now establishing the Blue Dot banks. These are bilateral banks that are open and receiving funds now. These are international trade banks with the commercial bank set up under the International Trade Bank. The international trade banks are for living people and their physical assets. Back in the 1930s, the international trade banks that existed were converted to commercial banks, which are for corporations. And what are U.S. citizens? What is a person? What is a personal account? Corporate account. So we are bringing back full-service international trade banks for people and their assets, and they are being run under public law. Under these are the commercial banks that will also be run under public law. The Mutual Offset Credit Exemption Exchange, known as MOCHI, is the name for the remedy that was set up for living people to use the national credit. The previous slide, Joe's Hamburger Shop, explained the process set up. We were just not ever told about it. Americans will access their national credit with vendor cards to pay the bills we get for the corporation that has our name. These are similar to prepaid gift cards, but it is prepaid with the credit that was earned by you and your family. These are used to pay the bills in our all capital letters name, such as mortgage, student loans, health insurance, and all insurance, credit cards, bank loans, property taxes, car payment, utilities, and all the rest. All of this is protected with a blockchain system, so it is all safe and very high-tech.
So here come the Americans, and all over the country, people are waking up and finding out how to return to the land and soil of America. We feel that everyone has the right to know the difference between what a U.S. citizen really is and what an American is, so they can make an informed decision where they stand and why we're doing this.
The Great American Adventure. What is it? We have been called to assemble for the first time since 1864, the first time in 160 years. People are answering this call and stepping up to join their state assembly and learn to self-govern and have oversight over the federal governments. We are all learning this together. Now we have a state assembly in every state of the union. The purpose also is to have oversight at the state, county, and local levels. Think about this. Sheriffs are elected by the people and take an oath to the Constitution and should protect them according to the Constitution. But they are actually working for the county corporation and have to follow their rules. They actually have a choice of whether to follow the Constitution or not in each individual case. We feel they should always uphold the Constitution for the people. We need to start our land jurisdiction courts. They are the highest courts on the land. Our courts can nullify the municipal codes and statutes and laws because we live on the land and their laws are for the sea. This is a big deal. This is how we keep them in check. Our mission is to peacefully restore our actual sovereign government to its full function, our American government that protects the people and their assets. Let's look at some of our accomplishments.
One of the things that was accomplished this past year was the development of the land recording system. This is used worldwide because what has happened here in the United States has happened all over the world. This is where we record for public record that we have changed our political status and are American state nationals, no longer paying their taxes as slaves.
After the Civil War, there was no one with the right standing and jurisdiction to vote the states that were created after 1860 as states of the Union because a corporation had taken over the government. Now that the states have assembled again, the states that existed before 1860 were able to vote to enroll the others as states of the Union. Once they are states of the Union, then they are also members of the Federation of States. This was effective with the original date of their contract.
This is important because all the land and mineral rights, grazing rights, oil rights had been managed up until this time by the Bureau of Land Management, which is a private for-profit corporation They weren't managed or kept for the people who lived in that area or that state. Now they lawfully cannot continue to do so.
We passed our first public law in 160 years. When the vaccines came out, we realized that with that mRNA in them, that these corporations were going to claim people as genetically modified and that they are transhumans with no rights and that the corporation would own them. This law restricts ownership interest in living things. Because the states of the Union had not assembled after the Civil War, there was no one with the right standing or jurisdiction that could actually end that war. Now we have assembled and we voted to finally end the Civil War. It was effective August 1st, 2021. This is very important because since the Civil War, there has been the Emergency War Powers Act, and every few years there would be a war against something or someone. Now, peace has been declared on the land. For those American state citizens that were able to vote, it was very exciting to participate in this historical moment. How do you correct your political status and come back to the land? You, the living man or woman, are physically on the land, but on paper, on record, you are a U.S. citizen on the sea. You can stay there, or you can come back to the land and soil. To start this process, send an email to your state coordinator. You can find this at states.americanstatenationals.org. You will get further instructions. You will need a copy of your birth certificate and 2 witnesses that have known you 7 years or longer. These all get notarized. With these and autographing this 1779 declaration and recording all these on the land recording system puts you back on the land quickly. After that, you can order your credential card. Congratulations! Once you are an American, how can you help? You can join your state assembly.
In that assembly, you can help on committees, and there are different ones. You may find one that you have an interest in joining. If your skills and life experiences could be helpful, and you're willing to learn as you go, the committees can use your help. Read, study, share what you've learned. It's new to all of us. We're learning to self-govern. It didn't come with specific instructions. Everyone has the right to choose to either remain as a U.S. citizen or come back to being an American again. But we need to share this information so that people can make informed decisions. We all have the right to be Americans and reclaim our birthright.
A nation of well-informed men who have been taught to know and prize the rights which God has given them cannot be enslaved. It is in the region of ignorance that tyranny begins. By Benjamin Franklin. Now you are no longer ignorant. I thought it was interesting that of all the colors that there are, they chose red and blue pills. They could have chosen pink and green, but they chose red for the land and truth and blue for the sea, deceit. Here are ways you can learn more and do some research. TASA.AmericanStateNationals.org is a great site for learning for everything American. The history, mission, constitutions, common law, paperwork, educational tools, webinars, all the state assemblies, everything. We call this the TASA website. The next one is very similar and they work together. On both of these, you can go to the webinar link and watch Anna's live webinar every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. She lives in Alaska, so it is later in the day for us. You can always see it later if you are busy because you also have access to all her past webinars and there is so much knowledge in them that she shares with everyone. On AnnaVonRights.com are the articles Anna has written going back to 2014. There are over 3,500 articles on there. The most recent ones are the highest numbers. On search AnnaVonRights.com, you can put in keywords and it will bring up Anna's articles pertaining to that word or phrase. I love this website. Anna has written several books. You know something is wrong when is where most of this information has come from. You can purchase it on the website. Everyone in America should read this book.
Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. JFK. Your country needs all of us now.
This is America's peace flag. This flag was flown before the Civil War, before these corporations were always at war. We, the people, are peaceful. This is the flag we want flying everywhere again. Thank you for sharing your time and for listening to the truth.